Hey there, welcome to Craft Central Designs and the final fall decor video for this autumn season. I have two easy, very pretty autumn decor pieces for you today. A door decor pumpkin and a fall centerpiece, perfect for any dining table, a mantle, a buffet table, a foyer table, or wherever you would like a beautiful centerpiece. Both of these pieces would add an autumn feel to your home or business in lovely fall colors and beautiful textures. Let me show you how I created these pretty decor pieces. Welcome to all to my channel today. If you are not currently a subscriber, I would like to invite you to become one. As well, give this tutorial a thumbs up if you enjoy, and perhaps you would share this tutorial with others. And as always, leave me your comments. I love interacting with my viewers and my subscribers. Okay, let's get busy creating these pretty decor pieces. Now, right there you're looking at the centerpiece. Now it has two sides. There's the other side, so I put a different pumpkin on the other side. All of those florals and autumn embellishments coordinate beautifully with the container that it's in, but we'll talk about containers in just a bit. So let's get busy looking at the materials that you would need to create these pieces. Now, I purchased this beautiful farmhouse-looking pitcher at Hobby Lobby. It's really, really pretty. You don't have to necessarily have this piece. I just thought it was really, really pretty. And I wanted to do a fall centerpiece in this pitcher. Now, you could go to a thrift store and look for a pitcher, just a white ceramic pitcher. And that would suffice as well. Or you could just use a regular vase. I mean, some type of ceramic vase would look pretty. I did, want to have this pitcher because I think it's really pretty. I mean, it's a typical Hobby Lobby piece. I want to say with the 40% off, I think it was around $13 or $14. And it has a lot of pretty colors. You could bring in the blue, that you see on the one pumpkin. On the other side, the pumpkin is like a sage-ish kind of color. So it really has different look on each side. So you can kind of go with different florals for each side, which is kind of what I did. I changed up the pumpkin. All right, you're going to need something like Excelsior or some type of moss. You could use Spanish moss or a different colored, there's various different colors of Excelsior that you could use on this piece. There's also brown that they have at Hobby Lobby. I have a piece of floral foam in there, just one piece that I cut down a little bit to pop down inside of there. Now I'm going to show you some options for this piece. I still am looking for somewhere to put these little velvet pumpkins. They came on a long stem and I absolutely love them. But they just keep getting put by the wayside, if so to speak. But I never ended up using them on this piece either. Eventually, I'm sure I will, because I love them. But I did use one velvety pumpkin on this centerpiece, which looked really pretty, in a kind of an off-white ivory color. Now, I used this stem. This was 40% off in the floral department at Hobby Lobby. I absolutely love this stem, and I've used it for a number of different pieces. Now, one of the greens in that pitcher go very, very well with that greenery. So I'm going to use that and really play on those colors that are in the pitcher, which is exactly what I did for all of my materials. I was playing on the colors, going off the colors that were in that pitcher, because I wanted everything to look very coordinated. Now I picked up a couple of stems of these fall florals in the 40% off aisle at Hobby Lobby, of course. And they're very pretty. It has some leaves. It has acorns and pit berries. Very nice. This is another big full stem that I had picked up at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to use a couple of those gorgeous long narrow pine cones, some of those beautiful brown leaves that's on that stem. So I'm using this stem basic. I just keep picking at it, taking this and that off of it. But that's a great thing to do, is to pick up a full stem, look at it and see if it has like a lot of different elements on it. And you could use that for more than one piece, but just by picking and choosing what you want off of there to go with your particular project. Now, I love these flowers. They just keep appearing, don't they? Because I just love them. I use these for year-round for all different types of decor. But in the fall department at Hobby Lobby, they have these in fall colors. So, I'm not going to be able to resist that. So there were browns in that picture, so you be sure I was going to use those flowers. Now I'm going to be covering up that floral foam with Excelsior. Now you can use whatever type of covering that you like, whether it's Spanish moss or Excelsior, whatever you like. And I'm just going to pop that right down in there. I had to do a little bit of trimming. I just used a serrated edge knife to do that. Now I have a couple of ribbons here because I'm making this piece for the dining room for the Quantum House, and I wasn't sure, was I going to put a bow on it or not? So I have this very pretty velvet ribbon from the floral department, actually the fall floral department. The ribbons are right next to all the florals. And I picked that up as well as a kind of an off-white ribbon. Not really sure if I was going to make a bow or not. I ended up not making the bow, but I like to be prepared, because if there's one thing that drives me crazy is if I, get ready to do a project and I'm missing some important element that I had envisioned having on the piece. So, yeah, I can always put things away and use them for another day if I need to. Okay, so I'm going to use some Excelsior on here. This is a nice kind of a mossy green and a very fine Excelsior. If you want to pick up Excelsior, you could do so at Hobby Lobby. It's in the floral department, around the area where the grapevine wreaths are. Okay, so, very messy always. But, that goes on the floor along with all of my other scraps, and then I clean it all up at the end. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of work my Excelsior to make room for my florals, just kind of spread it out a little bit. I like the little scraggly pieces of Excelsior coming out from the arrangement. Okay, so I'm going to urge you, if you want to do a fall floral arrangement, or if you want to do a wreath or a swag or anything of the like, to carry around Hobby Lobby your florals in your hand and just place them together. See how they go. See what kind of fullness they create so you know how much you need to buy. But most importantly, so that you can make sure that you have enough to go on your project. Now this one, I'm just kind of spreading it out, taking a little bit of an inventory here. What do I have here to work with? And I have a little bit of a pitberry. I got a snip off there that lost its color. But if I have pitberries, I know I can, kind of coil them. I know that if I have some leaves, that's going to help me to fill in spaces. If I have pine cones or acorns, that's always great for anything floral. So just kind of walk around, if you're at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, wherever, and just hold the florals in your hand and just keep adding to them and use your imagination, judging by what kind of vessel, or if you're doing a wreath, what type of wreath and how big, how much do you need for that project? And how well coordinated are the pieces that you're selecting while you're at the store? To me, one of the most fun elements of doing a centerpiece, or, oops, that was my dog, sorry, or a wreath, is choosing all the materials. That's one of the most fun parts to me. Now, for this picture arrangement that I'm doing, now this holds true for you if you want to use that picture, or you can pick up one at a thrift store. I would try that for sure. Or if you're just using a regular vase, some type of ceramic vase, you're going to want to make sure that it looks good from all sides. So I put up a little backdrop here so that because I have to film at such a weird angle when I'm doing an arrangement so that you can see it. So I didn't want you to have to see all the background stuff too. Okay, so first thing I'm doing here is I'm just popping in those two floral pieces, that autumn floral piece, so that I can kind of fill some space, get an idea, like what do I want to add to that. Now, generally I put in my largest elements first, but this time I'm just going to go for placing those two in there, and I'm going to build my arrangement from there. Now here I am with those velvet pumpkins again. So I thought, do I want to use those or not? Now, you could use those, but what I opted to do was to use a little bit bigger pumpkin and just one. On each side of the arrangement, I used a different pumpkin. So that piece is going to be pretty from both sides. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm taking some of those pit berries because they're all just kind of scraggly and pointing out here and there, and I want to control them a little bit. So I just have a little kind of a stick there. You could use a dowel, any size dowel. You could use a pencil, whatever you like. But what I like to do is just get a kind of a grip, if you will. And what's happening, there's a lot of pit berry strands on those two fall stems, so I'm trying to just control them a little bit, so that when I add my other elements, it's not going to look crazy with all those pit berry stems sticking out all over. So this is just advice if you want to use these particular stems, but they do have a lot of visual interest, and they have a number of different elements which are going to look really ultimately very pretty on this piece. Now I am going to pop out that pumpkin stem. Yeah, it's so pretty. And I just know I'm going to find the right arrangement or wreath for that one day. I know I will. But what I'm going to do here is I'm looking at what other pumpkins I would use. Up there it goes. I knew that was going to happen. Okay, so what I decided to do here is start filling in with some of those greenery pieces. Now, what you're going to notice if you're new to floral design is that when you first start a piece, it might look, kind of a little disheveled, or like you might be saying to yourself, is this really going to turn out well? Because as you're building it, you have to have that vision of what you want your piece to look like in your head, so that you can try and start constructing it to match that vision, if that makes sense. But in the meantime, while you're constructing it, it might look a little crazy. But that's because you don't have everything on yet. You don't have all your spaces filled up. You can't judge it so early on, if that makes sense. So I decided to start filling in here with some of that greenery. Now, I pointed out to you that greenery picks up the mossy color on the pumpkin on the other side. Also, the leaves on that picture in that pretty design that's painted on that picture. Now, on one side of the picture, there's a blue pumpkin. You could pick up a few little floral elements with blue in it. Now, that's become very popular in the past couple of years. If you like that, you could add some blue little berries to that. I'm sure you could find those at Hobby Lobby. You could add a pumpkin in a blue color. I've seen that as well. So if you want to really play on the colors, if you get this picture, think about that. Otherwise, if you use a plain pitcher, like a white pitcher or a white ceramic container, you could just go with any colors on this and just apply the fundamentals of floral design as I'm sharing them with you. So I put my large element on there, and I'm going to start framing that and building my arrangement around that. Now, that's a very pretty pumpkin. This what I call more of a rustic, a farmhousey type of arrangement. It doesn't have any oranges. It doesn't have any yellows. I'm just constructing it to coordinate and look very cohesive with the design on the picture. Now, you do you. You choose your colors. You certainly have enough to choose from if you go to Hobby Lobby as far as the color scheme, what you choose for yours. So I put that very pretty rusticy pumpkin. It's got a lot of character to it. And I popped it down. Notice how I put it down low in the arrangement, and everything else is popping up around it. And I'm starting to fill in all the spaces. Now, one thing that you'll see me do here, and I do it often on my floral design, is I like to bend my stems so that they kind of cascade down the front of my arrangement. Very easy to do that if you buy florals with a good stem construction. And at Hobby Lobby, their florals are really very good for that. Now, as you look at it, it looks still a little wonky. Don't worry, keep working on it. Now, you probably noticed in the finished arrangement that I saw you, it looks very good. It looks very structured, and it's very, very pretty and balanced, and it has symmetry and distribution of color. So just keep thinking about that while you're adding your elements, and think about both sides. You want to have a lot of balance. Now, this arrangement turned out to be a bit of a triangular shape. It does have some elements cascading down the front, but it's more of a triangular shape, which you may have noticed that when you saw the arrangement and the intro. So I'm going to continue building my arrangement here. Now I'm adding some flower elements. Now on those stems that, for example, the one that we first put in with the acorns and the pitberries, if you have any like crazy pieces still poking out, like I see one right there, and I know that's going to get snipped off, but you can always snip something off. Keep a good pair of wire cutters handy and shape your arrangement as need be. Just because a piece comes on a stem doesn't mean it has to stay on the stem. You can snip it off and conform that stem or that bush to the shape of your arrangement. Now, if I had the best vantage point to look at this arrangement, it would be straight on, but I'm kind of looking down on it, so it looks a little bit crazy, but you'll see that it all comes together. Okay, so I'm going to add some of these. I love these pods. They have these little, I don't know what they are on the top of each pod, but I love it. I love this pod, and it's going to really bring some light to this arrangement. Right now, it's like a lot of, rusticy colors. but I am going to pop in some of those pods. I'm going to take a couple of those stems. I got those in the department where all the the wreath embellishments are, and the short stems in the fall department at Hobby Lobby. And I kind of deconstruct them, dissect them, cut off little pieces. And those I'm just going to pop in my arrangement. But notice how I keep going back to front, front to back, because I want to continue to create balance on this arrangement and have it look attractive from all sides. If you put this on a dining room table, you're going to see it from all sides. If you put it on a kitchen counter, you may see it from all sides. So if you're going to place it somewhere where, like, say, for example, on a foyer table where you'll never see the back side, you may want to focus all of your attention on your favorite side of that picture and really just do it up and then fill in the back, but you don't have to necessarily have pumpkins and everything else on the back. That's up to you. But I'm just trying to offer you suggestions and just advice on how to put this together and how to think about it. Now, I can guarantee you I had all those florals in my hand when I was choosing what I was going to put in this arrangement when I was shopping. So now you can see how those pods are really kind of bringing that arrangement to life. Everything that I apply into my arrangement, aside from the pieces that I poke directly down into the floral foam, which some of them I did, but as you add things, you may not be able to poke them into the floral foam. So let the greenery on your arrangement or any of the bush, the stem, big stem bush pieces that you put in there, let those support your smaller pieces. And just use hot glue. It will stay if you put hot glue on the tip of the stem that you're inserting. Pop it in there and let the rest of your arrangement support your smaller pieces. You're not going to necessarily be able to pop everything right into the floral foam. Okay, now I'm showing you how I bend my pieces. I do that so that if I poke them right at the top of the picture, I can get them to cascade from the arrangement down the front of the picture. And that's a very nice look. Now that stem of that greenery that you see there, that sagey color greenery, it's so pretty. It's a very full stem. It's in the florals at Hobby Lobby where they sell the long stemmed florals. That's in a separate department from the other florals. Okay, now I think a really gorgeous element that was added into this arrangement were these long pine cones. I love these pine cones. I wish I could find like a huge bag of them, all of them long, and I would purchase it, but I haven't been able to find that. So sometimes I'm able to find them falling from evergreen trees in the area where I live. But yeah, I didn't have very many to put in this arrangement. So I put those pine cones in and I think they looked really beautiful. Those I did poke into the floral foam. So those are in there nice and sturdy. Now, believe it or not, this is coming together. Still looks a little bit, a little bit scraggly because we got some trimming to do. But look how pretty those pine cones look popping up out of those florals and that sage greenery. I think one of the prettiest elements of that arrangement was the addition of those pine cones. I like the rusticy pumpkin in that side of the arrangement, but I ended up putting one of those little off-white velvety pumpkins that they have at Hobby Lobby. Now, I'm going to add some of these darker brown flowers. Now, they have this shade is in that design on that picture. So I'm trying to, again, coordinate with the colors, bring those colors out on the picture and into the floral elements of my arrangement. Yep, I'm pointing to that acorn because it's about to go. I got to just get my wire cutters out and take that off because it's really poking out there. See how I use my glue to hold things in. Now, you could as well, and I didn't mention this before, but you could use some type of pretty basket. Now, I think an arrangement like this with all these pretty florals, yeah, beautiful in a basket. I like to take my baskets, I don't care what color they are. I always like to take a chippy brush, dip it in a little bit of paint, usually like an off-white paint or a chalk paint, and I dry brush off my chippy brush, and I do a little distressing, if you will, on my baskets. I think that is just the prettiest look. So yeah, if I were putting this in a basket, that's exactly what I would do. Now look what's happening here. It's starting to look like, an arrangement, right? Now I'm going to start adding the leaves, and oh boy, does that take this arrangement to another level. Very, very beautiful when you start adding leaves. Now I'm using dark brown leaves as well as some lighter colored leaves. Again, looking at the colors on my picture so I can emulate those colors in my arrangement. Now this is when it's starting to take shape. Now see what I meant before about how it just looks so wonky until you start really putting everything together, filling in the spaces, adding all the textures and the colors, balancing everything out. The leaves that you put into these arrangements, oh my, don't skip that part. Hobby Lobby, I know, if I say Hobby Lobby once during a video, I must say it 100 times. But Hobby Lobby has great leaves. Okay, I'm a fanatic about beautiful faux leaves. I like the veins, like to see the veins in them. I don't want any fraying on the tips of the edges of the leaves. I like a sturdy leaf. Hobby Lobby has those. Yep, I said it again. Okay, when am I going to snip off that stray acorn that's popping out there? I know it's coming. I just haven't done it yet. Now, what I'm doing here, bending again, because I want, on both sides, I want a little bit of that greenery to just be coming downward, if you will, off of that arrangement. And that really creates a beautiful effect. Everything isn't just poking out of the styrofoam. I'm creating a little bit of a shape to the arrangement by bending my stems. Now, yeah, this is another long video. But yeah, if I don't share all this with you, I feel like, I'm not doing you the best service that I can. So feel forward, feel free to forward, feel free to forward over any parts that you find, you already know how to do, or maybe you're just not interested in. But did you see what I just did there? I popped an acorn right on my greenery stem. Yep, I used a little hot glue. I wanted a little visual interest coming down from that picture, and that's how I achieved that. I took a little acorn, I popped a little hot glue on the wire, and I laid it right across the stem of my greenery. Now I popped a flower in there. See how now I am going about filling in those spaces, making sure that I have balance and symmetry and good color distribution. Now, I started out using 2 of those rusticy pumpkins, so no, you're not seeing things. I actually did use that, which I think I didn't even put that in until later, so you probably won't see me showing you that here on the demonstration part of the video, but you will see it in the intro and the exit. So now I'm toward the end of the arrangement, and I'm just checking out both sides and making sure I don't have any gaps in my arrangement. And I must have seen one because I created that bent stem to kind of balance out the bent stem that I have on the other side. And that's called symmetry. So I really made use of that stem of that sage green greenery. So again, I'm just balancing everything out. I did use a couple of pieces on both sides where I did the bending of the stem and had it kind of with the look of kind of cascading down the front of each side of that arrangement. Another great thing about this greenery is that you can attach things to it, like, for example, an acorn or a baby pine cone. Or maybe one of those pretty brown flowers. This would go beautiful in a home, in a farmhouse theme. But I'm sure it's going to look very pretty in the dining room at the Quantum House as well. And if you've heard me talk probably most every video, I mention the Quantum House because most of my pieces are being donated to the Quantum House. And I have this great area, multiple areas within the facility to just do whatever I like. And I love creating pieces to dress up the various areas of the Quantum House, which is, if you're not familiar, it's like the Ronald McDonald House, and it houses families temporarily who have a child in the family being treated for a serious medical condition. And I just love donating my pieces. And I would like to urge you to think about doing something of the same nature. Maybe a woman's shelter that doesn't really have funds for decorating, or a homeless shelter. How about an underfunded school that has no money for decorations, or little money for decorations? You'd be surprised how well that kind of thing is received. So here I am, balancing out those last little few features for this arrangement. Now see how it's starting to look like a real arrangement. We're getting toward the end here, but still popping in a few things here and there. And I see now that I snipped off that wonky long stem with the acorn on it. All right, let's not forget the pit berries. For heaven's sakes, those are always a beautiful addition to a fall arrangement. So I happen to have a garland of those off-white pit berries. Of course, you know where I got them. Do I need to say it? And I just take a pencil and wrap it around, and I just coil them up. Once I coil them up, I kind of bend them in different directions. I don't want them looking perfectly coiled up. I like to give them some visual interest, and now I'm just going to pop those around the arrangement. But see how, oh, look what I did there. I took my pitberry strand and I physically wrapped it around the stem of that greenery. So now those pit berries are just peeking around the leaves. Yeah, that's a great thing to do. Use your other florals and wrap your pit berries around and have them just peeking out here and there. Or you could just put a full stem of them and let them just go in that. Do you see what I'm doing there? I just wrapped it again around the stem. Look at the effect of that. Yeah. Fun to do that. Add those little tips and tricks to your arrangement. Okay, so doing a visual check over there. I think, yeah, that's been bugging me. I was sitting here watching it. I've been thinking, did I trim that off? Because it was a little bit of a wonky piece. But when I trimmed it off, I don't waste it. I'm going to pop it right back into the arrangement, but somewhere else. So if you have a stem that's ill-behaved, if you will, sometimes those stems are ill-behaved. So just snip off whatever is giving you an issue and pop it in somewhere else. Put a dab of glue on it and stick it in somewhere. Yeah, because all those stems aren't perfect. All those bushes aren't perfect, even if they're from Hobby Lobby. So I hope that, you're picking up some little tips and tricks of creating an arrangement and most importantly, how to think about your arrangement. Because the whole time that I'm creating something, whether it's a wreath or a floral centerpiece, I'm always thinking. Is it full enough? Is it balanced? Is the color distributed? Do I have a hole here or there? Do I need to fill in some areas? Okay, so that's my advice about creating an arrangement like this. And again, it doesn't have to be a picture. You could go to a thrift store, go to the Goodwill, go to a garage sale, pick up some type of vessel to put all of your florals in that you really, love, and just create your arrangement. And you can do it without spending a lot. Get your florals on sale and get your vase or whatever it is on sale or, for very little money. And that piece is going to be beautiful wherever it's placed. I could see that on a fireplace mantle, by the way. I think that would look really pretty. Okay, so top to bottom. Now, if you want to see it from the front down low, trying to get a little bit better view there. There we go. Now I'm showing you. See how it looks so much prettier from the front, right? See how it has almost like a triangular shape or a diamond shape? And see how the colors just really are so pretty. So I wanted to just get a full view of that for you. Okay, we're on to the pumpkin. Now I know 100 people have posted on Pinterest their pumpkins. I've done many of these myself, but if you're really interested in doing one, I'm doing one for the Quantum House. I'm going to share with you one of the ways in which I do it. I've done so many different types of these. I like the pumpkin frame from Hobby Lobby. It's very sturdy, but if you want to get the one from the Dollar Tree, that's fine. But just check it over before you buy it, because they tend to have little broken off pieces. They break very easily is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to be using some orange twine. Where did I get this? I wish I could remember. I think I bought it for a Halloween project that I did last year. But, you can order orange twine on Amazon, I'm sure. Maybe you could find it in one of the craft stores. This is a gorgeous ribbon from Michaels. It's a Celebrate ribbon. I absolutely love it. I think the colors are beautiful. And that's another Celebrate ribbon from Michaels. Now, I didn't use that one, but it's a great option. I love Celebrate ribbons from Michaels, so you'll never go wrong with the quality of a Celebrate ribbon. That mustardy color picks up the yellows in that ribbon with the pumpkins on it, and so I'm going to use that. Now, I had that plaid ribbon there. Yeah, you know what? I changed my mind about things. No surprise there. So you'll see me kind of wavering on what I'm going to use exactly for my bow, but that's no big deal. One way or another, you choose your own ribbons. Okay, now I'm going to wrap the wires of my pumpkin frame. Now you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, that is going to take hours. Well, in fact, it took me about an hour. It's really faster than you might imagine. So, I just anchored down my, it's like a burlap twine. It's orange, obviously. And I just start by wrapping in my frame, my outer perimeter, and then I wrap all of the sections, that the wires that section off the sections of the pumpkin. Now, I cut like a long piece so that I can work quickly and efficiently. And I continue to start wrapping and wrapping and wrapping. And this is the time when you turn on your favorite Netflix series or a good movie and wrap. And that way you're not so concentrated on how long it's taking you to do that. Okay, so I only glue if I'm anchoring to start a piece or to end a piece. But I actually do it this fast. So as far as it taking a long time, no, I don't think it does. Now, there's lots of different ways to do these pumpkins. Lots of different ways. You've probably seen them if you look at different YouTube tutorials. You've probably seen them on Pinterest. I'm going to show you how I'm doing this one. I've done multiple pumpkins, and every time I do them differently. So, but this is the way I'm going to do mine today. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap my stem, and this is just a jute twine. You can get jute twine anywhere, Dollar Tree, any craft store, on Amazon, whatever. But you can see that I have all of my wires wrapped, and it's looking pretty good right now. Now, the only thing that I can say about that pumpkin, the orange twine or cord on that pumpkin, is I ultimately felt it was a little bright. So you're going to see me in just a little bit kind of mute that orange a little bit, and I'll show you how I'll do that. So what I'm doing right now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap my peduncle with this jute cord. And when I do so, I like to wrap it in kind of a crisscross fashion. So I don't want all those cords to just be straight across the peduncle. I want it to be, look a little, I don't want to say messy, but crisscrossy. Okay, so you're going to notice that I do that. It also makes it easier to wrap the stem because then you don't have to worry about keeping a straight line. So same thing for the peduncle. I cut off a nice long piece of twine, and I work with just pieces of twine rather than trying to, do anything otherwise. So, yeah, that's what I do. A long piece of twine takes quite a few pieces, but who cares? Just keep going and wrap and wrap and wrap. And that's going to make a very handsome looking peduncle for that pumpkin. Now, initially I thought, you know what, I think I'm just going to wrap the wires of the pumpkin. But then I ended up feeling like it was missing something. So you're going to see me cover the inside of that pumpkin with burlap. Now I've wrapped many of these door hangers or however you want to use them. I've done a starfish. I've done a autumn leaf. I've done snowman. I've just done so many. And I always wrap my wires first, and then I decide what else am I going to do to it, because I don't really think those wires are attractive at all. Even though Hobby Lobby, this one is actually kind of like a rusty, almost like a rusty brown. It's not even ugly, but the ones at the Dollar Tree are green. So yeah, you're going to be wrapping those for sure. But I'm going to go ahead and keep wrapping my stem here. And it's kind of a process because, as you could see, it comes down to a point down low toward the body of the pumpkin. And then it has kind of its own shape. So you have to work at it a little bit. Okay, so regarding the all of those orange, I keep wanting to call them spokes of that pumpkin. What I did that I realized in the editing process that I must not have recorded it, but it's super simple, and I can tell you what I did, because you may have noticed it on the finished pumpkin. I decided that I wanted a little something on the orange wrapped wires of that pumpkin frame. Now, I did mention to you, and you'll see me doing it here in just a minute, that I just dabbed a little bit of pumpkin color paint over it. I didn't make a process of painting it or, brushing it on carefully, anything. I basically just almost dry brushed it a little bit, but I didn't brush across the burlap twine. I just dabbed it with a paintbrush. You're going to see me show you that here in a minute. But what I'm going to do otherwise is I'm going to take that jute twine that you see me wrapping around that stem, and I decided I wanted to create kind of a design on all of those orange twine covered wires. So what I did was I anchored down, my beginning piece, and I just spiraled my burlap all up and down all of the wires of that pumpkin. Now, I'll show you that here in a minute, but I just wanted to mention it because I realized that I don't know what I did, but maybe thought I was recording and I didn't, but super simple. I just wrapped the wires, but just kind of a spiral around each one of the wires around the perimeter of the pumpkin, as well as the wires that create the sections of the pumpkin. All right, so I'm going to move on here to the bow. Now, I am going to backtrack, and I'll come back and we'll talk more about the color of the pumpkin and that process. But I'm going to go ahead and make a bow here. Now, if you've seen me make a bow like 100 times, you can forward over this, or you can watch it again and again until you get it. You know, it's seemingly a unique method of creating bows that I have. So I'm going to always urge you to try and learn this technique yourself, because makes the prettiest bows, and it gives you such versatility in the creation of your bows. But you can use an easy bow maker. I'm not going to discourage you from that for sure. Use it if it helps you. You can use a bow dabra. They're very good in that they hold the loops of the bow for you. I do my own holding, as you can see there, with my thumb and my index finger. Now, all I do here is I twist my ribbon, I fold it over and pinch it in the center. And I always think of my bows as having a left and a right side. And for this bow, I created 3 loops on the left and 3 loops on the right. I take a half a pipe cleaner, wrap it around, twist it, and I have a 6-loop bow. Now, I left the tails around 8 inches. I wasn't sure exactly how long I wanted them to be. Now, again, you see me using this plaid, but I had a little change of mind later on, and I just, instead of having the plaid for the base of my bow, I changed my mind and used that pretty 2.5-inch burlap ribbon that they have at Hobby Lobby, and I'll show you that, but I'm just mentioning it ahead. All right, the next layer of my bow is going to be this mustardy yellow. So I am going to use this color because it picks up one of the shades of yellow in that Celebrate ribbon with the pumpkins on it. So I'm basically just creating another 6-loop bow. Now, I make the loops of my bow, my largest loops for the bottom or the base of the bow, I made around 8 to 9 inches, because I don't want them quite as large as this bow, quite as large as like one I would put on a wreath. And so then this ribbon, I made just a little bit smaller than that, because as I stack my bows, I like for them to be a little bit smaller, and then the next one to be a little bit smaller, and so on till you get to the top of the bow when you're in the stacking process. So, yeah, I changed my mind on that plaid ribbon, and the main reason why is because it was more of a rust color in that plaid than an orange. And so I was trying to make it work at the onset, but then, I just get a little carried away with being fanatical, if you will, about color and coordination. So, okay, so I love this ribbon. Oh, I just think it's so, so pretty. I'm going to make a bow for the last bow that's going to go on the top of my stacked mixed ribbon bow. Now I'm folding over my loops just like I always do, pinching it in the center, twisting before I fold it over. If you would like to learn to make bows like I do, and you want to see a very slow, methodical tutorial, I have multiple tutorials on how I create bows on my playlist. Check it out. I show you how to make mixed ribbon bows, basic one single ribbon bows. I show you how I do figure 8 bows. And I also have my own bow maker that I designed. And so, go look down the playlist and look at a few of those videos. they're going to be labeled how to make a bow for sure. So, but I do talk about it in every one of my videos, but yeah, check it out. And I promise you learn this technique, you are going to absolutely love it. So, yeah, you're going to see me put this bow together because I didn't make that design choice change until later on. But the thing is, and I mentioned this in my last video, if you do a mixed ribbon bow and you stack all your ribbons together and you wrap a pipe cleaner around it, and then you look at your bow and you go, you know what? I don't like that one bow in there. It's just not right for me. So all you have to do is snip your pipe cleaner and take it out and put another one in and then restack all of your bows. Because when I do a stacked bow like this, I always wait and at the very end when I'm going to put all of my bows together, I use one long pipe cleaner to attach them all together. That way I always have that option to take one out if I want to. Or maybe I want to insert something. So all I have to do is snip that main pipe cleaner, that long one that I wrapped around all of them. And yeah, it's so easy to do. And I did it last video and I'm doing it again with this one. Just wasn't digging that plaid ribbon. I just wasn't digging it. So yeah, there's that long pipe cleaner that I just was talking about. Yep. It's separate from all the other pipe cleaners I use to put my bows together. That's why I do that. because it's a longer pipe cleaner to fit around all those bows, but also because I know myself and I change my mind sometimes. But yeah, I just wasn't liking that plaid. Okay. So, of course, we're going to have a beautiful bow on this pumpkin. And this bow is going to be more beautiful after I take that plaid ribbon out. And I'm actually going to use a 2.5 inch ribbon for that base of that bow because I don't actually have a 1.5 inch burlap, believe it or not. I have probably 6 bins of ribbons and I don't have a single 1.5 inch burlap ribbon. Now, that's just my luck. It's going to go on the upper left of that pumpkin. And when I go to attach it, I'm just going to simply glue it. Okay, now I'm going to take some pumpkin colored paint. This is Crafter's Collection. Waverly also has a great one. It's just called Pumpkin. Love the shades of that. But I want to mute down this orange a little bit. I'm not painting it on. I'm just dabbing paint on it. And this is going to give me a little bit of that effect that I want. I want it a little bit muted. Now, it was after this that I decided that I was going to take my jute twine and wrap all of the wires of my pumpkin. And I just spiraled it. There we go. Do you see that? That's all I did. Wrap and wrap. About an inch apart, each of the pieces of jute, about an inch apart, that spiral. And I think that added a really cool look to my pumpkin, something different I haven't seen before. Okay, so then I was toying with the idea of what am I going to put on that in place of that plaid. So I was looking at different burlaps. I love that Celebrate ribbon with the burlap and white stripe. I thought about using that. Yeah, that's one of my favorites, that ribbon. It's so beautiful. Yeah, but I ended up using the burlap. Okay, so then I was looking at my pumpkin. And I said, do I want to leave it empty in between the wires? Now, I've seen it done 100 different ways on Pinterest. Those leaves are so bright. I think those were from maybe Hobby Lobby, but too orange, way too orange. All right, now I'm gathered up my florals. I've gathered up my florals. I'm going to use some different pods. I'm trying things out. Notice how I compare everything to my ribbons. Okay, I want to pick up the colors in the ribbon. So I'm going to use that berry stem. I was trying to make it work so that I could use that stem, that greenery, but the green wasn't quite right. I thought about using those flowers, never used them. I used mostly leaves and acorns and pit berries. I think I did possibly, I'm trying to remember if I used flowers. We'll have to wait and see. I've been doing a lot of projects lately, so I'll have to look at it to see. But I was, trying to I'm going to put the bow on, and I was looking at it, and I was going to attach it, and then I just ended up not doing that. Now, you might say, well, why do you even talk about it if you didn't do it? Because what I try and teach on my channel is the thought process into going forward to create a project. And to create a project, more importantly, on your own, independently, without a YouTube to show you how. My goal is to get you to eventually do that on your own, just like I do. That say to yourself, wow, you know what? I think I'd really like to have a new wreath for my front door. And then just go to Hobby Lobby and or wherever, Michael's, whatever. And then just put it together yourself. Just by looking at the florals and seeing what goes together. Okay? And when I talk a lot about how I changed my mind, that's part of the process. You don't always settle on, everything that you determined at the craft store. Sometimes you have a change of mind. Sometimes you have something in your ribbon stash that you totally forgot about, and you decide to change your mind and use it. All right, I put that bow on there, and now it's gone. Because you know what I decided to do? I decided that pumpkin needed to have fabric. So this is the way I'm doing mine. There are multiple ways to do this. This is the only burlap that I had on hand. It came in like a roll. I might have picked that up at Walmart. They have nice burlap there. So what I'm going to do is cut pieces of my burlap to just rest down inside of that pumpkin. And I'm going to adhere that burlap to the back of the wires on the underside of the pumpkin. Now what I do is I just generally cut a piece, not fitting it necessarily, but just big enough so that it will sit down in there and that I can cover it. Now I'm only doing sections. I'm actually going to do 3 sections for this side of the pumpkin, because I didn't have if I'd have had one big solid piece of burlap, I would have just put the whole thing in there and then started attaching my burlap. But I didn't have that, so I'm making do with what I have. Maybe this is the same for you. Maybe that's what you have on hand. So I'm going to show you how I do it in sections. So what I do is I lay my burlap in there so it's nice and comfortable sitting inside of there. And then I start in the very center of my wire that divides the sections of the pumpkin. And I start from there attaching my burlap. I start in the very center and then I work my way out to the sides. And I do that by gluing every couple of inches. I do it in very small sections. I press it down and then I pull it ever so slightly so that the fabric is not loose in between the wires. I want it to be nice and smooth, but you have to be careful not to pull too hard. You don't want to stretch. This is burlap. It has no give. So you have to really go with it and be gentle when you pull your burlap. So I'm going to go from one wire to the next till I get all the way out to the edge. I lift up my burlap, put a dab of glue Always start in the center of the wire, then work your way to the edges. Then when you get to the edge, then you close it off with your hot glue. I'll show you here. Now, if you just let your burlap fall down into the curvature of your pumpkin, you're going to find that this works very nicely. See how I'm now gluing closed onto the wire, the edges. I do the inside wires first, starting in the middle. Again, I want to emphasize that. Work your way out to the sides, and I just tap that on to my wires. And at the same time, I'm urging my burlap to pull, to set nicely and smoothly in between the wires. Now, this may sound really complicated, and I promise you it isn't. And it may seem tedious, but it's honestly not really. So I'm going to cut off the excess of my burlap. Now, first I'm just doing kind of a rough cut. Then I go around later after I'm all done and I really trim it up. So what you have now is burlap covering your pumpkin, and that's much prettier, don't you think? Check and make sure that you have everything all adhered. And again, just make sure that you just very gently pull your burlap. Now, this is a pretty big or a pretty wide pumpkin. And remember, I only have this roll of burlap here. So I'm going to just do a rough cut and cut out the middle section because that's the biggest section. And I'm going to do that section separately. And then I'm going to use another piece to cover the other side, just like I covered the half of the first side that you saw me do. Now, while you see me cutting, I'm going to mention this. There is a pretty easy way of doing this if you want to buy 2 wreath frames and you want to buy your burlap in a solid piece like from the fabric department. You could take and place your pumpkin with the inside facing up, and you could drop your fabric down in there just like that. And then you could take your other frame and squash your fabric in between the 2 frames. Make sure that you pull it tight inside of there by just pulling on the sides once you have the 2 pieces, the 2 wire frames together with the burlap sandwiched in the middle. You may have seen this, and honestly, I probably would have done it that way had I had, an extra frame and had I had a full piece of burlap. But I think it's worth showing you this part because maybe that's just what you have on hand. And it's very doable to do it in sections with hot glue. You can also use this technique to to apply to other pieces. There's Dollar Tree always comes out with like these wire wreath frames in different shapes, and this is how you can cover it. Now, if my piece in the center there, I didn't cut it exactly the width or the length of that section, so I'll just trim it up after I get it glued on. But I use the same technique. I start in the middle, work my way to the edges or to the top and the bottom. I pull my fabric ever so slightly with my fingers. Now, if you're, be careful with burlap. Burlap, it's a great way to get burnt if you're not careful with the hot glue. I've been doing it for so long. I have this knack for timing the glue to the point where it's either going to hurt me or it's not, which sounds weird, but I do take out, I have one of those silicone makeup tools, and I did end up using that because I was thinking, oh, you guys are probably going to think, yeah, she's going to be burning herself. She's making me nervous. So, but see how I take my hand and just very gently pull that burlap ever so gently. And so that I want that to fit very nicely on my pumpkin. So, so what could you possibly do otherwise to keep that burlap stiff on your pumpkin? Well, I have a little tip. I don't think that I filmed doing this, but I'm going to recommend it. After I had everything all applied, all of the burlap on the inside of my pumpkin, I took a paintbrush. Actually, it was a very wide, chippy brush, and I dipped it in Mod Podge. I don't know if you've ever thought of doing this before, but Mod Podge has that stiffening ability. It's very good for that because it's like a runny glue. So I take a chippy brush and I go on the underside or the inside of my pumpkin, like you see it right there, and I just put a couple of layers of Mod Podge on there, and that stiffens up that burlap, and it assures that it's going to sit there nicely, and the fabric will be stiffer because you put that Mod Podge on there. I don't know if anyone else ever does this, but I don't know. A light bulb went on one day when I was making one of these. I think I was making the sand dollar. Not the sand dollar, the starfish. And it really helped. So I put on a layer of Mod Podge and I let it dry. And then I put another layer on, just an added layer. And and I feel like my burlap is going to be, sitting nicely for years to come on that piece. That one's going to the quantum house, so I'll never know. But I've had these pieces. I have a starfish, and I keep mentioning that, but one of my favorite ones that I've ever done, and I still have it to this day, and I absolutely love it. Okay, now my hand kept going in and out of frame there, but I think you got the idea. Okay, so now I'm going to finish off the other three sections. Just going to do a rough cut, a general cut of how big I need that piece, and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with the other side. I'm going to pop my burlap down in there, let it rest, and just fall into the curvature of that pumpkin. Notice how I start in the center. There's that makeup applicator, that silicone piece. And while I'm using that, I'm pulling a little bit on my burlap to make sure that it's taut, but yet not pulled out of shape. Again, it's burlap. You have to be mindful of that. It has no stretchability, so you have to try and get it taut by pulling on it ever so slightly. I do all of the inside wires first, then I go around and I do the top and the bottom to finish it off. And again, think about that Mod Podge trick. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good trick. Now, I would have to say this is probably the most tedious part of this project, but turns out really pretty. And these pumpkins have so much versatility, what you could do with them. Okay, so after I'm done with that, yeah, that's looking pretty. After I'm done with that, I do a good trimming all the way around. Trim up any raw edges. Just use a sharp pair of scissors that go around the edges and clean that all up. Then I'm going to be ready to decorate. Sealing up those edges now using my applicator. And one other thing I want to mention, be sure that you're turning your pumpkin over periodically while you're gluing. Make sure that you're turning it over to make sure that it looks smoothed out, your sections. Make sure that everything looks smooth on the front. Now I'm taking my sharp scissors and I'm going to trim that up and make it look very tidy and finished. You know, you can also do one of these. You could do one of these for Halloween, you know. It would look great orange, or it would also look great black. And you could decorate the top with Halloween ribbons and different Halloween embellishments. Now, you can't go to Hobby Lobby for that. I guess you all know, if you are Hobby Lobbyers, that they don't carry Halloween. Okay, so you have to rely on Dollar Tree, Michael's, or Amazon. And I have to say that Dollar Tree comes out with some cute stuff, really cute Halloween stuff. Actually, I'm going to be doing a few pieces for the Quantum House, and they're going to be so super cute. And of course, they're going to be cute because I'm certainly not doing anything creepy or scary for that facility. But I'm going to do some really cute stuff. And a couple of the pieces that I'm going to be using are from the Dollar Tree. So yeah, so I do stop by there every now and then. But I have to say that they come out with some cute stuff for Halloween. Okay, so yeah, I'm revising my bow here. And I decided, you know, I was having bow issues with this piece. I don't know why. Usually that's the easiest part for me. But I love this jute cord that Hobby Lobby has. It's a jute color with orange woven through it. So pretty. You guys have heard me talk about this before. I just absolutely love it. So I decided to do, as you can see, a 4-loop bow out of that 2.5-inch wired burlap ribbon from Hobby Lobby. It just made more sense to me to use that as opposed to the plaid. I put my mustard colored ribbon down next, my mustardy yellow, and then I put that cord in there just for visual interest and texture. And then I'm going to pop my pretty pumpkin ribbon right on top of that. I'm going to get a full-size pipe cleaner, because I think I'm actually going to stick with this bow. But I'm just making the point. Use that full-size pipe cleaner when you stack your bows. That way you have the option to do whatever you want if you change your mind. So I'll take care of those tails later. Of course, they'll be angled. You can dovetail if you like. Now, look how pretty that pumpkin is. Very, very pretty. Okay, so I'm going to put that bow on there, but I'm not going to attach it through the wire, obviously, because now I have that burlap on there. So what I'm going to do is put a hefty blob of hot glue on the top of my pumpkin. But before I do that, I'm going to lay just a little foundation of florals. So I'm going to put a leaf there. I have that pick, I don't know what you call those, the pointy straw-looking stem. I don't really know what you call it. But Hobby Lobby's got tons of that kind of stuff. And then on the other side, I'm going to put some leaves. I like for them to poke up if possible. I don't glue them flat to the surface. But I'm going to embellish both sides just to put a little foundation before I put on my bow. Now, my bow is going to be obviously a huge focus of this pumpkin, but I want my leaves to also play an important part in the design of this piece. So I put a couple of pieces of that, whatever it's called. Sorry, I don't know the name of it. Does anybody know? Let me know what that is. That right there. Doesn't matter what it is. It just looks pretty on the piece. So I'm going to create a balance from both sides of my pumpkin with that. So I'm going to have it on the both sides, on the left and on the right. Now I'm going to take some of my berries that are in a myriad of colors. They're all fall colors. I'm going to stick a couple of pieces underneath my bow. Now I have attached my bow. I guess I didn't show you that, but honestly, all I did was put a big blob of glue on the left side and I popped my bow down in there. That's all I did. I put it close to the stem, but I want to say about 1.5 inches away from the stem. I wanted to be sure that my stem was seen. So I wanted to be careful about putting that big bow right next to the stem because that potentially could have covered up the stem and I didn't want to do that. So that's why I moved my bow out a little bit from the stem. So now you can see I'm just popping in all kinds of things. I have some big pods there that I got at Hobby Lobby. I'm popping in some of those little berries that came on a stem. I'm going to use some of my little small pine cones. Usually when I do this on a piece, I do clusters of 3. When I do pine cones, you do you. You could put singular or 2 or whatever you like. I like to pop things in underneath the loops of my bow as well. I like things to be peeking out from underneath the bow loops. Now I'm just creating this piece the same way that I create a wreath or a centerpiece. I'm just trying to create a distribution of color, a distribution of the materials as far as textures, distributing my leaves and the color of my leaves. And once I get those larger elements on, the big leaves and the big bow, that's when I start adding all those smaller elements. And those smaller elements, never underestimate the value of those because they really make a piece pop. Now, I keep trying to make that greenery work, but it's just not going to. It's similar to that pumpkin on the ribbon, but not quite. So it would have bugged me if it was the wrong color. So I just took it out. And now I'm continuing to just pop in my little embellishments there. You know, it would have been really beautiful on this piece had I had one. Would have been one of those long pine cones. Oh, do I love those. That would have been so exquisite on this piece. Right there, it would have been really nice. Right there where I just put that brown leaf. But I was really wishing that I had one. If anybody sees, I don't know if Michael's carries those. You know, Hobby Lobby has pine cones. They have big ones. Not big ones, but regular sized pine cones, just the round ones. And they have the little baby ones. But if you want the long ones, you almost have to get a stem that has those on it. If anybody knows where I can get those long pine cones, those are the ones I really love for Christmas. Christmas decor as well. Probably they have them on Amazon. I haven't actually looked on there. But they're so beautiful on a Christmas wreath too. So I'm going to be doing a Christmas wreath with those beautiful little owls that I showed you a couple of videos ago. And I could sure use those pine cones for that wreath. All right, can you see that I popped a pine cone in the bow? I guess I didn't show you that, but again, very simple. Put a dab of glue on the bottom of the pine cone, and that's just one of those regular sized pine cones from Hobby Lobby. I tilted it a little bit off to the side, and it looks very pretty sitting in the center of that bow. Now I take my ribbon tails and I kind of, put a little shape to them, a little ripple shape, and then on the tips, I angled my tips, or the ends of my ribbon, and I kind of turned the tips up. And that's just my finishing touch on that bow. Now we are just about done with this pumpkin. Now, again, do you do you with this pumpkin. There's just a gazillion choices of color and how you can finish this pumpkin. You could do the inside of that pumpkin with a fabric as well, like printed fabric. You could do it with orange burlap. Oh my gosh, endless possibilities. Okay, so I'm finishing up now, but I'm going to add some little tendrils, if you will, some little curly pieces. I have this brown covered wire that I got in the floral department at Hobby Lobby. And I'm going to create about 4 or 5, I think, of those little tendril pieces by wrapping it around a pencil. And I like it poking up from my pumpkin. After I do that wrap, I always kind of bend them in kind of a little bit of a funky, wild shape. I don't like them looking just like they came off the pencil in plain words. I like to just kind of curl them and bend them this way and that way. Give them some visual interest. And then I'm just going to pop those in just like I did everything else with hot glue. Tell me what you think of this pumpkin. Not that you haven't probably seen this pumpkin done 100 different ways if you are a Pinterest enthusiast like I am. But I know people probably tired of seeing the same pumpkin over and over. But yeah, if you pick up something new along the way from me, that's always worth it. And I love the idea of that. Okay, last but not least, we have to hang this thing. So I cut a nice long piece of that jute cord, about 24 inches. I folded it in half for double strength. I'm going to tie a knot in the bottom, so I will have a teardrop shaped hanger. And now I'm just going to simply hot glue that to the back of the stem. And then I'm additionally, to make sure that that doesn't go anywhere, although burlap to burlap or jute to jute is always a good sturdy combination, I'm just going to put an extra little piece of burlap on the back of there. And that's how you can hang it. And then I'm just going to glue that right on top of the hanger. You could use a little piece of ribbon as well. And that's it for this piece. And we are done. We are done with autumn. That's it. Moving on. I'm going to do a few pieces for Halloween. Even if you're not a Halloween enthusiast, check in and see. Maybe you'll feel like making something that I'm going to be making next week. It's going to be fun. All right, one last look at this pretty pumpkin in the sunlight. I think it's so pretty. I can imagine this on a front door with other, porch embellishments. And there is that velvety, ivory-colored pumpkin. So you can see that as well as the other pumpkin in the piece, the rusticy pumpkin. Okay, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share this with your friends. Tell me what you think of this pumpkin and the arrangement. And until next time, you all take care.